Happy Pentecost. Happy birthday of the church. In this week's gospel, we hear from Jesus again at the Last Supper, talking about this comforter, this Holy Spirit, or the term that we hear in the translation is the advocate, whom the Father is going to send, he and the Father. And so we get this kind of glimpse into the Trinity again, right? You've got God the Father, you've got God the Son, and you've got God the Holy Spirit who's being sent by them as the advocate for us. And what does Jesus specifically tell us this advocate will do? He will guide us into all truth. Now, there's two different levels at play here. On the one hand, Jesus is speaking directly to his apostles, to his first bishops. And so he is promising that the Holy Spirit is going to guard the church, guide the church to all truth. Doesn't mean that the church isn't going to make mistakes, right? Even in the first generation of Christianity, you've got Paul calling out Peter for hypocrisy. You've got infighting about, do we need to circumcise converts? Do we not need to circumcise converts? So it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a processing of things and working things out, but it does mean that we have a promise from the mouth of Jesus that the Holy Spirit is going to guard his church and guide his church into all truth. And so if we don't believe that the church teaches with the authority of God, we go against what Jesus says in today's gospel, right? So the church is going to be guided and guarded in truth. The church will be indefectible, infallible even, in the person of the Pope and in councils. But there's also a secondary level to this. Not all believers weren't at the Last Supper. Jesus wasn't speaking directly to other folks who weren't the apostles. However, there is a sense in which we all participate in a supernatural sense of the faith. Right? All of the faithful can participate in this inerrancy, indefectibility, if you will, of the church by this supernatural sense of faith that is also given to us by the Holy Spirit through our baptism and our confirmation. We have the Holy Spirit. We are, if you will, official representations of the church. We're ambassadors for Christ, as St. Paul says. And the Holy Spirit will guide us as long as we're forming our conscience well, right? So if we're following that teaching of the church, then we can also bring that message to others and exercise our prophetic office through our baptism. This is a lot. This is what Jesus is kind of unpacking here by talking about the Spirit guiding us into all truth. And so this week, the challenge for us is to, if you will, marinate in revelation that God has given us through the voice of his church, guided by that advocate, the Holy Spirit.